I'm 92 years old and I need you to sit with me for a minute. Not because my story is special. It isn't. That's the trouble. It's ordinary. It could be yours. My body is closing its doors one by one. The doctors don't say it like that. They use softer words. Decline, complications, age-related. But I've lived long enough to recognize the sound of the lock turning. I don't have much breath some mornings. My hands tremble, even when I'm not cold. And there are things I've carried for decades that feel heavier now than they ever did. I need to tell you something before I go. When you get to my age, the nights are longer than the days, not because of insomnia, because of memory. I lie in this narrow bed listening to the hum of the oxygen machine, and I walk through my life like it's a house I used to live in. Some rooms are bright, some I've kept locked for years. Lately, the locked ones don't stay shut. I was 24 when I married Helen. She was 22, with a laugh that startled birds from trees. The first time I heard it, I felt chosen. Like the world had pointed at me and said, "Here, this is yours." I didn't know then that laughter like that doesn't come around twice in a lifetime. I thought life was a long road. I thought there would always be more time. I worked at the steel plant, long hours, hot, loud, unforgiving work, the kind that leaves a ringing in your ears even after you lie down. I told myself I was building something solid, a future, a name people would respect. My father had been a quiet man who never owned anything outright. We rented everything. Even our sense of security felt borrowed. I swore I'd do better. Helen would wait up for me in those early years, light on in the kitchen, a plate wrapped in foil. She'd sit across from me while I ate and ask about my day. I'd shrug. Same as always. I didn't know how to talk about the noise in my head, the foreman's temper, the pressure to move faster, the fear of being the man who falls behind. I thought providing was enough. I thought being tired was proof of love. We had our first son when I was 27. I remember holding him and feeling something crack open in my chest. He was so small, so helpless. I promised him things silently while Helen slept. I promised I would give him everything I never had. But I didn't understand what everything really meant. In my 30s, I started picking up extra shifts. Promotions dangled like carrots. More money, better house. We moved to a place with a small yard and a maple tree in front. I remember standing in that yard, hands on my hips, feeling proud, like I had conquered something. Helen said she loved it. I believed her. I didn't notice that she had started sitting alone on the porch in the evenings, watching the sun go down without me. Our daughter was born 2 years later. She had her mother's eyes and this soft way of gripping my finger like I was the only solid thing in the world. I missed her first steps because I was covering for a man who called in sick. I told myself she wouldn't remember. I told myself there would be other moments. There were always other moments. I just wasn't there for most of them. I remember one Saturday. It comes back clear as glass. My son must have been 8. He came into the dining room holding a box with a picture of a bright red airplane on it. He asked if I could help him build it. I had paperwork spread across the table, inventory reports, notes about a new supervisor role I was chasing. I didn't even look up fully when I said, "Not today, buddy, tomorrow." He nodded like he understood. Tomorrow came and went. and then another tomorrow. The model stayed in its box for years. I saw it once in the attic long after he'd left for college. The corners were crushed. The tape had yellowed. I held that box in my hands at 67 years old and felt something inside me sink in a way I can't describe. You don't notice the slow cost while you're paying it. That's the cruel part. It feels responsible. It feels necessary. You say no to a picnic because of overtime. You miss a school play because the boss is visiting. You come home late and everyone's already asleep. You stand in the doorway and watch and everyone's already asleep. You stand in the doorway and watch them breathe, and you tell yourself you're doing this for them. You whisper, "It'll be worth it." Helen stopped waiting up around my 40th birthday. She'd go to bed early, said she was tired. We talked about bills, about schedules, about what needed fixing around the house, the sink, the car, the fence. We didn't talk about us. I don't remember when that happened. It's like trying to remember the day a crack formed in the wall. You only see it once it's already there, running from ceiling to floor. There was a night, this one stays with me, our anniversary, 20 years. I had meant to leave work early. I truly had. I even looked at the clock a few times. But a shipment came in wrong. Tempers flared, and I stayed. I always stayed. When I walked through the door, it was nearly midnight. The house was dark. On the kitchen table there were 2 plates, cold. Candles burned down to puddles of wax. The wax had hardened in little frozen drips. Helen was asleep on the couch, still wearing the blue dress I liked. Her makeup slightly smudged, one shoe still on. I stood there a long time. I could have woken her. I could have said I was sorry. I could have told her she mattered more than any shipment ever would. Instead, I covered her with a blanket and told myself we'd celebrate on the weekend. We didn't. By my 50s, I had the title I wanted, the bigger paycheck, the office with the door. People shook my hand with respect. They listened when I spoke. My children were grown by then. My son moved 3 states away. My daughter married a kind man I barely knew. At her wedding, I realized I didn't know her favorite color anymore. I realized I had missed the years when she stopped being a little girl. Holidays became quieter, shorter. Helen and I sat across from each other at the breakfast table most mornings, reading separate sections of the newspaper. We were polite. We were stable. We were strangers in small ways. She tried, I think. She'd suggest a trip, a drive somewhere. "Let's just go," she'd say. I always had a reason to postpone it. After this quarter, after this project, after I retire. I believed retirement was a wide-open field waiting for us. I could see it in my mind. Long mornings, road trips, laughter again. I retired at 65 with a gold watch and a speech. People clapped. They told me I'd earned rest. I shook hands. I smiled for pictures. I drove home feeling accomplished. 2 months later, Helen found a lump. The memory of that hospital room is sharper than anything else in my life. The smell of disinfectant, the beeping machines, the way her hand felt smaller in mine, like it was already letting go. The doctors talked about treatment plans, percentages, time frames. We had time frames now, but not the kind I had imagined. Chemotherapy took her hair first, then her appetite, then her strength. I sat beside her bed every day. I canceled everything. I told her sat beside her bed every day. I canceled everything. I told her stories about work she'd heard 100 times before. I tried to make her laugh the way she used to. One evening, she looked at me with a softness I hadn't seen in years and said, "You're here now." There was no accusation in her voice. That was the worst part. Just a quiet truth. She died 3 weeks later. I was 66, standing in a house that suddenly felt too large. The maple tree out front had grown tall. Its branches scraped the bedroom window at night, like fingers asking to be let in. After the funeral, people filled the rooms with casseroles and kind words. Then they left. The silence settled in like dust. It covered everything. I walked into the attic one afternoon looking for something, maybe just distraction. I found boxes of drawings my daughter had made, report cards with little handwritten notes from teachers, that model airplane still untouched, photo albums I had never opened. There were pictures of Helen and the children at parks, at school events, on vacations I had only partially attended. In many of them, there was an empty space beside them where I might have stood. I had built a life. I had paid for everything. And somehow I had not been in it. My children call. They are good to me. They visit when they can. They have their own responsibilities now. I hear myself in their voices sometimes, busy, distracted, promising to call back later. I don't blame them. This is how it goes. But there are moments after they leave when the house feels like a museum of my postponements. Every room holds a reminder of something I meant to do, a conversation I meant to have, a trip I meant to take. If I could go back, I wouldn't change my work ethic. I'm proud that I provided. I'm grateful we never worried about food or heat. My children never went to bed hungry. That matters. But I would have understood something sooner. Being needed at work is not the same as being known at home. I thought love was proven by sacrifice, and maybe it is, but I sacrificed the wrong hours. I gave my best energy to men who replaced me within a month of my retirement. I gave my sharpest mind, my strongest years, my fullest laughter to a building that still stands without me. And I gave my leftovers to the people who would have kept me irreplaceable. That's what I need to tell you.